Alright, so to start off this tutorial, we're just going to create a new project. We're going to Android application. I'm going to call this Spinner tutorial. We can just click next, next. Then you guys can set your image, clip art, text, whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to set this to spinners. Then we're going to click next again. And finally, we can leave it as a blank activity and next. And we'll leave all this the same as well. So we're just going to go finish. Wait for it to load. Alright, now once we create our project and it's finished loading, we're going to go down to resources, activity main, and we're going to set up our interface really quick. So we can delete this. First thing we're going to need is a medium text box. We're going to click and drag it over here. We're going to set the name of the text box to txt enter weight. And then we're going to change the text. We're just going to click yes and yes to these. Change the text of it to please enter weight. This is just a label so the user knows to enter their weight. Then the next thing we're going to add is a text field where the user can enter their weight. So we're just going to click and drag this over here. Little blank editable text box. We're going to call it EDT, TXT, enter weight. Hit enter. Okay, okay again. Then we're going to add the spinner itself. We're going to go form widgets. We're just going to click and drag the spinner over here. Try to center it a little bit. Then we're going to call this Spinner Planet. And then we can just leave the rest of that blank and we'll add items to that spinner later. So just yes, okay. Then we're going to add a quick little button over here. We're going to call this button btn calculate. We're just going to hit enter. Okay, okay. Then we're going to change the text of the button so the user knows what it does. And we're going to call it calculate weight. And the last thing we're going to add is another text field where the user's weight will show up once they click the button. So let's call this EDT TXT final weight. Okay, okay. And then we're just going to set the text quickly to your weight on this planet is. And we'll just leave it blank for now and fill it in later. And that's it for this step. For this next step, we're going to create an array of strings so that the spinner actually has a list in it. So we're going to go add, we're going to go string array, okay. Then we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it planets underscore array. And now we're going to add 9 items to this array, and these items are all going to be strings with planet names. So we're going to add 9 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to give each of these the names of one of the planets. So you guys can finish that by yourselves, and then I'll see you guys. For this next step, we're going to add all of the elements to our spinner, which is in this case our planets. So we're going to go to our project, spinner tutorial, we're going to go to resources, we're going to go to layout, we're going to go activity underscore main, then we're going to go from graphical layout to activity underscore main.xml. We're going to go to the spinner and we're going to add in this little piece of code. Android entries equals at array slash and then the name of our string of planets, which we put in the values or the strings XML, which is planets underscore array. And that's it. That'll add all of our planet strings to the spinner. Now to start off with the actual code, I'm going to have a completed one and a new one side by side, and I'll go through it with you guys step by step. First thing, we're going to import everything that we're going to need. I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'll also leave a list of it for you guys in the description so you can just copy and paste it as well. Now to start off, we're going to add all the components and all the variables that we're going to need and everything else to make it run. So first thing, we're going to create the spinner within code. So we're going to go public spinner right here. Then we're going to call it spinner planet because it is a spinner filled with all the names of the planets. The next thing we're going to create is a variable for gravity right below it because we're going to need gravity in our calculations. And this we're going to set as 9.8. The last thing we're going to need is a variable for the weight. So we're going to call this planet weight. to set it to 0, and this will be the weight of the person once it's calculated on the given planet. Then we're going to create the spinner in the code down below and set up the reference to the spinner that we created in our interface. So we're going to call it spinner planet, and then we're going to go equals spinner, and then find view by ID. Then we're going to go r.id. Then we're going to reference the spinner in our interface, and that is called spinner planet dot spinner planet, and that's it. And now we have created our spinner in the code, and we have referenced the one that we made in the interface with the list of planets. Now we're going to do the same thing for the button and the two text boxes, editable text boxes that we created. So I'm just going to copy and paste them. You guys can pause it if you want to see what the code is actually like, but it's exactly the same. The only difference being that they are now buttons instead of spinners, and that means that instead of saying spinner, like up here, you put button, and you put button in here instead of spinner, and then edit text for these two. Same thing. And we're going to change these because these enter weights and EditText. And that's it for this step. And for this last part of the tutorial, we're going to figure out how to get the value of the spinner and input it into a string so that we can do something with it. But to start off, we're going to set up an on-click-listener for our btn calculate so that it gets the value of the spinner whenever we click the button. So to start off, we're just going to go btn calculate dot set on-click-listener listen. Then we're going to get a new view.OnClickListener, and then hit enter. It'll fill everything in for us. And now we're going to add a variable called double dbl weight, which is going to be the weight of the person. We're going to get that weight from the value of edt weight, which is the text box which the user enters the weight in. We're going to go double.value of edt.getText.toString, and that'll give us the weight. Now we're going to set up a string which will give us the value of the spinner. So we're going to go string. We're going to call it str planet because we're getting the planet from the spinner. Then we're going to go spinner planet.getSelectedItem.toString, and that will convert the selected item in the spinner to a string, which will be now str planet. Then to do something with that string, we're just going to set up a statement called if str planet dot equals, then in this case we're looking for planet, so we'll check if it equals Mercury. If it equals to Mercury, we're going to put in a little formula to calculate the weight as if that person is on Mercury. And I'm not going to explain this formula, but it's just the weight times the gravity on Mercury divided by the gravity on Earth. And then for the rest of them, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're just going to change it so that if it equals Earth, Mercury, Mars, whatever it equals, it'll do a different calculation based on the force of gravity on that planet, say Venus. Now, for the last step, we're going to change the edt final weight text box so that it equals that person's weight on that planet. So I'm just going to copy and paste it, but I'm just going to go through it with you. So edt final weight.setText, so we're setting the text. Your weight on this planet is, and then we're going to fill in the planet, which we got from the spinner up here. Then we're going to use that decimal format, so we're going to d.format, and then we're going to take planet weight, which is the weight of that person on that planet, and fill it in. And that's it. And lastly, I'm just going to show you a quick little demo of our application in action. So you can run this by just clicking on your project, right click, go to run as Android application. So here we're just going to click, we're going to enter the weight, say 120. Then we can pick any of the planets in our spinner. So we'll say Jupiter. Then you can click calculate weight, and as you can see, it updates it, so it says your weight on Jupiter is 256. So if it was 120 pounds on Earth, it'd be 256 on Jupiter. That's it for this tutorial, so thanks guys.